listening to The Bob Dean Show, only on LA Talk Radio.
Hey, gang. It's me, Bob Dean. Welcome to The Bob Dean Show. Yay. I want to say Happy New Year, everybody. It's been pre-Christmas since we've all been together. Ooh, thank you, Dennis Olson, my technical. Welcome, guys. Happy New Year. I'm a little disheveled right now because, as usual, something's gone wrong. Well, this is the reason why. I got bitten by a brown recluse spider just before Christmas, and I didn't realize what it was. And long story short is that it turned into something ugly, and the doctor said it would get uglier, and it got ugly about 2 minutes before we started. But everything's cool. And let's welcome the ladies to the show. Linda Schneider, our co-host for the time being. How are you?
How are you?
Oh, goodness. Just completely disheveled. And we want to, before I forget, we want to say hi to Kathy St. George.
Yeah.
Yes. Hi, Kathy.
Recovering.
Hi, Kathy, babe.
Kathy, we love you.
I finally
Yeah,
got
we
her
love
on
you,
the phone
Kathy.
today and talked to her, so I was relieved.
Yeah, well, I texted her a couple times this morning and yesterday and today, and when Kathy's not up to feeling like talking, she's not feeling, but she'll be okay, gang, and she'll be back with us. And Linda and Kathy and Suzanne, how are you?
Great. How are you, Bob? I just heard about the spider bite. Boy, that's pretty serious.
It's always something. It was pretty gross. I mean, I would go and for all of those that I sent that video to after I'd had a couple of martinis, I apologize.
I didn't see the video, but I saw the still photo.
The still photo was bad enough, and then when I don't want to get into it, but you know when your doctor tells you that a pustule is going to say hi, well, like 5 minutes ago it did. So, but of course, nothing is ever held back. I'm wearing my hat that Dennis gave me for Christmas.
Oh, that's cool.
What a difference a Bob makes. And see what else. I know you guys are you buried under snow? What's going on?
No, we've got like a little bit on the ground, but nothing to speak of. We had really bad ice about 2 days ago.
Well, that's worse.
It is.
Yeah,
my driveway looked like a skating rink. I couldn't even get out. So
all the yakking they do on the news at different parts of the country. For example, you guys are probably aware of more of what's actually going on crime-wise and stuff in Los Angeles than we are. And all we're hearing about is how you guys are just, they're showing the maps over and over, and everybody's, under, I know it's a serious winter storm and safety and warmth to everybody there. But we've been having winter storms, and this morning they went on and on for 24 hours about this huge wind gust because the surf has been crazy. I don't know if you guys have seen any of the reports of that.
No, I have not.
Oh, the West Coast surf is crazy. I mean, these giant waves coming up out of nowhere and, knocking buildings down and stuff. And so they're telling everybody to stay out of the water because it's beautiful and sunny right now, but the waves are ridiculous.
Oh, wow.
And, yeah. And then this morning it was supposed to go until 2 p.m., but it was probably about a good hour's worth, at least in Santa Monica, of these wind gusts that were made the whole house rattle. And, they warned us they were coming, so I had to go down and move all my potted plants from my urban garden so they wouldn't blow over onto the neighbor's car. But weather-wise, it's been crazy with the surf and with, warmth and everybody. But, of course, we love Los Angeles because it'll be 70 and sunny in a couple hours.
Oh, I wish that was here. It is so gloomy here today. We've got on every light in the room, and it's still,
Well, my ring light is halfway because I was running around. Thank you, Dennis, for the help. But you guys look fabulous. For a gloomy, rainy day, you get 2 big old rays of sunshine. You look so beautiful.
Oh, thank you. You're too sweet.
Yes, thank you. We try to be rays of sunshine. Yes, we do.
Well, I never throw around false flattery. We know that.
We try.
Sam, can you put our phone number up on there? Our call-in number, 323-203. I'm afraid to touch my phone in fear of screwing it up. Bear with me, audience. We love you. Facebook. No, wait, that's the wrong one. If I disappear, don't kill me. Ladies, feel free to jump in here and say something while I'm looking for the phone number.
Yes, well, we've had an exciting week this week. My daughter's and grandson's puppy ended up having emergency surgery this week.
That
So
was my next question because I left my notes on the other side of the room, y'all. So how's baby doing? What's the puppy's name again?
Cujo.
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 Well,
Yes, he's still in the hospital, still in the ICU, but he has had the surgery. They do not think it's malignant, so he's doing well. We're hoping to get him home sometime real soon.
well, he's in prayers and positive energy coming from the West Coast here.
Oh, thank you.
Great. Thank
No.
you.
And please give my best to the kids too. Come here, Miss Lily, who you met the other day when she was walking. She's a total ham now. She knows that we're doing the show, so she's walking back and forth, brushing up against my feet here because these calicos, they're crazy weird. Come here. You want to say hello? We'll talk later. So I've been doing some research on the inn. Tell us now. The inn was my notes.
It was on the Travel Channel.
The Riverside Inn is a historic haunted hotel in Cambridge, Pennsylvania.
Correct.
And my sister and I were called in to assist in a paranormal investigation with the Travel Channel Dead Files.
Which I was watching very early this morning. Now, the inn was destroyed by fire, though, right?
Well, there's a story to that, which dates back to the fact that when we were there and we were trying to find out why the people who were staying there were having sightings and apparitions touching them and their eyeglasses and their keys, things were being moved. And one particular couple had said that they felt a woman's presence tried to throw into the French Creek. So there was a lot of negative energy there. And while we were there with Amy and Steve and the Dead Files crew trying to, investigate and find out and teach the people there how to get rid of the several cliques. Amy had said that there was 3 or 4 different cliques of negative energy there. At one time, the Riverside Inn was a sanitarium, and it was run by Dr. Gray. And Dr. Gray had a spring in the back with water that he would bottle and sell. But it turned out to have magnesium. So the people who stayed there from like New York City, Chicago, or Cleveland, they wound up dying there. And so once it was sold, people reported all sorts of apparitions and negative energy of a lady, some children, Mr. Gray walking around. You could smell cigar smoke. And so when we went into it, we were there to help them to get rid of the negative energies on the Dead Files Revisited. That was our job, was to get in there to find out as paratherapists and psychic mediums as why they were doing this and what was going on, because people were starting to be afraid to stay at the inn.
Of course. Yeah, naturally. And because it's funny that you touched on it. Don't let me get sidetracked, because I always do. But when I discussed the spirits in the Lasso Lounge, where I worked on South Beach, that was the first thing when I felt like there was souls there, spirits, was when it was a beautiful old room, huge room in a 1930s deco hotel that we had completely gutted. There was nothing in the room. I was actually in there by myself painting. And the little alley in the back, I went out to wash some brushes. When I stepped back into this giant, like 2-story structure on the inside, it was the most overwhelming scent of cigar smoke. But there was nothing in the air, because it was in the morning and the sun was shining through. And my first thought was maybe some old guy like me was standing in the front, puffing on a cigar, looking to see what was going on. And I ran to the front door because it was so overwhelming, and nothing. And that led into the other, a whole other story. But from time to time, the ghost, the male ghost the room would fill up with the smell of cigar smoke. It was really neat and unnerving at the same time. But the inn was it was in the late 1800s, correct? And
yeah, late 1800s. It was 250 rooms, historic hotel. And, it had went through many hands as sanitarium, and then it was this institution, and then people drinking this magnesium water to cure you of kidney disease or cancer. The people that were staying there wound up dying, and people who had the TB. And so they were always cited in hauntings, and people would see apparitions of children, apparitions of a man. And when it turned into a hotel, like you said, people could smell cigar smoke filling up the room, banging and knocking on the door. And then also when they would go out to the beautiful pavilion where the French Creek was, they could feel a presence of somebody touching their shoulders and pushing them into the French Creek. And there was reported over the past 50 years that 2 people actually drowned, and they had reported that who were with them, that they were pushed into the French Creek and drowned from the negative energies. Also, there was somebody was murdered there. A couple was having an affair, and he wound up murdering his mistress there. So there was a lot of negative energies, a lot of apparitions, a lot of
sadness.
a lot of really heavy, thick sadness. And the hotel, they had reached out to Amy Allen of the Dead Files to see if she could come in and if she could help and find out. And so they asked us to assist as paranormal investigators and paratherapists to find out what was going on in the inn. And so we were at the French Creek trying to find out what was going on, doing a, doing like a reading. And we could see the vision of this woman saying that she's out to hurt people and to kill people.
Wow.
And that if her son is drowned and dead, so anybody near the French Creek. So we did our, I'm Catholic, so we did our prayer to St. Michael to leave the premises. We did some saging. We did some holy water. Also, Amy Allen likes to use tar water that really kind of helps with the negative energy. And so we had done all that. And as we were doing that on the 3rd floor with the film crew, we could not stay in this one room because it was such a heavy sadness. And you actually heard someone say, "Get out, get out." So we went into some other rooms to film. And so what they were trying to do was they were trying to get rid of the negative energy and let people know that there were the maids and the housekeepers were supposed to go room to room and cleanse each room, as Amy from the Dead Files had said, with us assisting. And so when we were in there, you could smell sulfur. The beds would rock, the rocking chairs would rock. It was so much negative energy. And I do believe that a lot of it was from the woman that was murdered. And then also there was a person that had drowned. And then the souls there were so upset because they had drinking all this magnesium water and they died there. They were on gurneys, tons and tons of gurneys that people had witnessed, from these people dying.
Ladies and gentlemen, please call us at 323-203-0815 if you'd like to speak to us and have any questions for Linda, myself, or Suzanne. And
be sure to talk about what happened with you and Jean while you were there.
Oh, okay. So
that's really interesting.
I also want to come back to saging and the negative energy, but the saging is something I want to touch on. But please tell us about you and Jean and what happened.
So when we were there during the filming, we had a lot of experiences during the night. Like we would hear people playing old time music. We wanted to leave early and marquees had disappeared and our glasses had disappeared and our shoes had disappeared. The spirits didn't want us to leave. They wanted to keep, terrorizing us. And at the same time, you would hear them in the hallway yelling, "Get out, get out." It was actually very scary because we're there saging and trying to do lighting the candles, doing the holy water. And so as we were all getting ready to leave, and including the crew from the Dead Files, the sound technician, the videographer, the producer, they were getting ready to leave. And they were already getting in the van to go to the airport. And I had ate breakfast and I had went down to the hallway and I seen this box hiding behind another door. It was just the strangest thing because it had like 200 rooms. And I said, that looks awfully familiar to me. It looks like what they were using the last couple of days to film, the sound technician. So I ran outside and I said, "Hey guys, did you leave anything?" And they said, "No, we got everything." I go, "No, there's a box over here." So the sound technician, Carrie, she went back into the building towards the very dead end of the building with me. And I showed her and she goes, "Oh my God." She goes, "That's my $4,000 sound technician box." I think she used as the clapboard, all there. And the spirit had moved it to play with them.
Right where she possibly thought it was packed away and all that sort of. And for those skeptics out there that think that this might be a lot of BS, it's not. It's not, because I've experienced it myself with the Lasso Lounge and all, and it's really serious stuff. And for so many people, to have gone there as seeking, of course, it was a completely different time in medicine and everything, and the whole world's still out there to wonder. But for these souls, these folks to go there, with the hope and of gaining health back, by consuming the spring water and all that, and it only led to something even worse. That's where you could, in my head, the double negativity. They were sad enough when they got there with all this hope in their heart and their families and that sort of thing, and it did completely the opposite.
Well, we were down near the river. We were going to go down and get rid of one of the spirits. We had been in every single room in the house pretty much, which is actually out there on the Dead Files Revisited video. And my sister had gotten scratched, and I thought she had gotten scratched at the French Creek from a bush. And she said something scratched me. And at the same time, I felt like something fall down my shirt and bite me. But we were in the middle of filming, and then also this big wind had picked up and almost threw us both into the French Creek. So during that scene, if you look at it, you will see us hunkered down and falling backwards, like trying to not fall into the creek. So later on that night, we stayed over. And then as we're heading home, Jeannie says she doesn't feel good. And so she goes back to her house and she says, I just don't feel good. And she started running a fever. And so we wind up, the scratches were there were 3 scratches, and they were starting to look like bigger and bigger. And so she had went to one local place, the urgent care, and they go, oh, she's got the flu, go home. So about 12 hours later, she has a high fever, she's shaking, she's sick. So we take her down to a larger hospital in Pittsburgh, and they said that she has sepsis from these scratches. And they admitted her into the hospital. And so she was in the hospital for 6 days, and her fever was so high and she was sick that she kept saying, the demon did this. The demon did this to me, to the nurses. And they would turn to me and ask me and her sons and the rest of the family. And we would just say, oh, no, I'm not sure about that, but she kept saying the demon. And then after she turned for the better, I think it was like 4 days. I mean, sepsis is serious. She almost died. It's very serious. I had started to get this rash. It was like all over my chest and towards my arm, and it had a big ring on it. And I didn't feel good. I had a fever myself. I was sick. So I went to urgent care, and they told me that I got Lyme's disease. So I got Lyme's disease, and Jeannie got sepsis from the Riverside Inn. Now, was it the demons were so mad at us, or was it Quinky Dinks? Was it coincidence?
Well, a coincidence, I think, I think not, personally. For both of us, so serious like that, it must have been terrifying for you. Have you had any other experiences like that with anything that you've investigated, or anything physical like that?
Yeah, but I wanted to end the story on the Riverside Inn.
Oh, please, I'm sorry. Yes,
was they were supposed to go on a regular basis, and according to Amy, and try to sage the building. And 6 months after the episode, a lot of tragedy happened. The lady had gotten behind in taxes, and then a new owner took over. And the new owner took over, and they didn't keep up with everything. And the night it burned down, people had said that they heard noises, strange noises coming from the rooms in the section that was really haunted. And when the fire department was trying to get rid of the fire, you could see pictures of like flames that looked like demons coming out of the fire.
God.
And so it's out there. If you look for it, you'll see they posted it like demons just coming out of the fire. Well, so that's burned down because they didn't keep the demons that keep them in their place.
Keep them at bay. Yeah, it was 2017 when the unfortunate fire. But wow, that's crazy cool in a horrible way, because I wish that we had some pictures to share. I should have set that up. But the place is gorgeous.
Now they just build a giant brewery on top of
it. And they brought the wood in from somewhere else. They brought it was a mill house or a barn or something from somewhere else that they brought and arranged it, put it together.
No, they bought it. They built it on the ground that was burned down.
Right. But the actual structure of the new brewery, isn't it a barn or something that they brought and built on the site? I know it's exactly where it was.
Yeah,
Where
yeah,
the-
it's a huge place. I've been there. It's a giant place, and the help and the waitresses have all said that they have witnessed and they have seen things going
Yeah,
on.
because just because the structure is gone, it doesn't mean that they're still not there, right?
Yeah.
Well, I'm calling road trip. I think we need to go investigate this, Bob. What do you think?
Seriously, come springtime.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yes.
come
Now,
springtime, that's a
Yes.
road trip.
now what hit me on the saging was because I when I was watching in the special in the video that saging, you guys were doing that, and the first time I saw that, and guys, I have gone back and forth about the Lasso Lounge because it was a big part of my life, and the two spirits that were there, one was negative and one was positive. But the Sunday evening when the two, if you let me refresh, I was in there by myself. It was early. The the bar didn't get busy until like 10 to midnight because we were open until 5. And it was an early Sunday, and these two young girls came in, not sharp like leather jackets. They were very Miami Beach, but they were really cool. They were the only ones in there, and they were sitting at the end of the long bar having a beer and talking. And I was doing something else, and they called me over. The one young lady said, "Are there spirits in the bar?" And my response before we became known as the Haunted Bar was, "Well, some say there are." And the one young lady started to, Jean and Henry were the two spirits. If I had said that in 1985, unfortunately, Jean, who owned the bar, was murdered by Henry, a man who was in love with her that she had no feelings for at all. And he stabbed her. He went behind the bar and stabbed her.
God,
And
yeah.
Wow.
yeah.
Wow.
And because I got to speak to witnesses, because the murders were in 1985, and this was in 1993 when we started. We started to rebuild the bar, and I got to speak to witnesses, like 7 people who were sitting at the bar, witnessed the whole thing, and they went in to describe a lot of it. So anyway, the two young ladies are the one says. So we start to talk, and she said, "Well, this is my friend, Louise and Joan, whatever." And she said, I can see the spirit, and my friend can hear them." And I was very intrigued. And she was telling me how when she could see Jean, she was one dimensional. She looked, but she turned sideways and she'd completely disappear. And then she'd turn this way and she'd be there. Right. So I could go on and on about it. But what happened was they're like, "Jean is here all the time, and Jean loves you because you are, you love the bar." And she followed me everywhere. And she was the physical one. Because it turns out, like I said, it's a great story because Jean, it was a straight bar. It was an old dive, the kind of place that I love, where it's dark and it's cold and people are smoking and, the padded booths and all that. And
Oh, yeah.
Jean was a lesbian, although it was a straight bar. And so we'd have, after it was hilarious because these like girls would be sitting at the bar having a conversation, lighthearted, and all of a sudden one would scream and jump like a foot into the air because Jean would blow into their ear.
Oh,
And
wow.
her thing with me was like,
Yeah.
I said it was a different time, and I would always have my foot. And I'd be smoking a cigarette and talking to somebody, and she'd run her finger right up, pardon me, ladies and gentlemen, but right up my jeans with my butt crack. And she would do it all the
Okay.
time. And I'd be like, "Stop it,"
Okay.
But getting back to, is that the two girls were telling me this and that and all that. And we were laughing about it. And then all of a sudden it turned really dark. And because what it would happen, when I mean dark, I meant because it was only the 3 of us. And what would happen is they explained to me later that Henry, the guy that murdered her, wasn't there all the time. Okay. What happened was he murdered Jean. He disappeared. He eluded the South Beach police, Miami Beach police, for a couple of weeks. And then they found him dead from mysterious circumstances in Loomis Park, which is that park right across from Collins Avenue that you see in all the movies and everything. And the girls told me that Jean was there was there all the time. And then Henry, when he showed up, that's when it would get crazy. Like our jukebox would go nuts. And whenever Hank Williams, Your Cheating Heart, somebody would play that. So the girls went on to explain that when Henry would show up, he would terrorize Jean. And I'd say, "Well, I can see it looks like the Tasmanian devil out of the corner of my eye," would go zoom and then fly across the room. And they said, "That's Jean when Henry gets here because she's terrified of him." So back to the original lead question. The saging. The two girls said we're going to be. They were very concerned as they're speaking to each other because they're concerned for Gene and what was happening. So, and of course, I was like, "What's happening?" And they took off. They came back about 30 minutes later, and they had tools with them. I would call them, and that's what they started to do. They started to do the saging, and they started at the front of the bar. I locked the front door, and they started at the front, and it was just, it was, I couldn't hear everything, but they were doing the saging and the burning, and they were going very slowly through the bar, and like they were pushing, I guess. And one of the girls like trotted around the side. She went and she opened up the back door by the pool table, and that's where it kind of got intense. And I believe they were saying like, go away, be free, something like that. Does that make sense to you about the verbal part of it?
Yeah, because that's what we did. We were saying, it's time for you to leave this premise and leave and go to the light, and that you're going to follow the sage and go towards the light and leave. And we left, the windows open and trying to get them to the negative ones. And there was a few good ones there too, that they needed to go to the light and get out of there. And so we had done that and saying things. And also we like to say the prayer to St. Michael too, that, anything that's negative or bad, just to get out of here, that, to leave.
Yeah, it's time to.
And we had, and then we had holy water, which we hit all over the corners and all through the place, and just saying, let the negative energies attach to holy water and leave. And so then we had a sound bowl that we were like doing a vibration and a sound so that they would attach to it. So we did several different methods to try to go to each section of that hotel to get rid of the negative energies. And you could hear them howling and screaming and howling. It was very terrifying. You could hear like howling and screaming and smelling sulfur, and for the negative ones. And it was very powerful and very, very scary. And I wore like 5 blessed rosaries. I mean, so did Jeannie, because we're dealing with a demon in that presence of that historic hotel, and there was one there. And you don't run into that too often, but there was one there.
Well, look, I'm getting the hair on my back is standing up right now, ladies, because it's like I said, for anybody that's a skeptic, and for those that are along the same lines who know that this is fact, it is terrifying. And when you have the gift, you and your sister have the gift that you're helping, but at the same time, when you guys get scared, then it's really got to be something terrifying. Even more so, like watching the terror, the things that you see in fictional movies or whatever, let alone the ones that are based on true incident. I don't know, man. It would scare me in the bar. Like when I would be in the bar by myself, when things would move around, because it sounded like the bar stools would move on the terrazzo floor all the time, but they wouldn't. But the ashtrays and the soda guns, those of you that are familiar with the bar, when you order a soda or whatever, that looks like a little plastic gun, those things would fly out all the time, as well as the pictures flying off the wall and the jukebox looking like a deck of cards, But there's so much physicality to it that, but my whole point about that was I would say to myself, if I ever turned around and saw something, I learned how to deal with it, the incidents of, that would scare the hell out of me. But I always said, if I turn around and see somebody looking back at me in the mirror or something, then that's when I would be out. And knock wood, I never had that. But, the ashtrays would slide, and we had a small office up this little thing of stairs. And it was funny because the office was literally like the ceiling it was only about 5.5 feet tall, but it was a regular room that was built very strangely. So I would have to crawl around to get from here and there. Mm-hmm. But it would sound like there was a party going on up there all the time, like at night, late or early in the morning. And then I did tell you about the haunted urinal, which I think is hilarious, but it was tragic.
Oh, wow. Yeah. That's gonna.
That was weird as hell, because what Henry did was, when he walked behind the bar in front of the 7 folks that were sitting there, he stabbed her, and her dying words were, "This is my bar and I will get you." And then he dropped her a little. She was a tiny petite little thing, like 5 feet tall, and he dropped her body. And I know this from the one witness. I can't remember what her name was, but she was had been a beautiful woman who looked like she partied a lot. So I was in my early 30s, so she was probably in her early 60s.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just starting to dig in deeply and learn so much more from her, because the other folks that were in the bar refused to talk about it naturally, you know. But she was, when they were evacuating Miami Beach for Hurricane Andrew, I think she was hurt in the winds, and so I never heard from her again. But the urinal, Henry went into the bath. You know, he opened up. She followed him. He went into the men's room, which was just a tiny room with a toilet and a sink. And we had replaced everything, including the piping to the streets, was brand new. And for those of you who have never, ladies who have never been in a men's room before, like, you know, by accident or got thrown in or whatever, urinals against the wall, gentlemen, you know, whatever. But there's a little reservoir of water usually in the bottom. And this is what Henry was doing, is for whatever reason, I guess he went in and he was washing the blood off of his arms and hands in this little water supply. And that, after I learned, because the urinal would just turn itself on like a fountain. I mean, literally, it would be like, wow. And the one thing that stands in mind is after my father passed away, and he, 7 days after his cancer diagnosis, he passed in Nashville. And so I was there for about 3 weeks. And when I went back to the beach, you know, to get my life back in order, when I first got back, the first night I walked into the men's room, and we weren't even open for business yet. And I'm washing my hands, and all of a sudden the urinal starts going, shh. And I looked at the ceiling and I go, Gene, I don't have the energy for this right now. And boom, it stopped just like that.
Yeah, that's all you have to do is just tell them, stop it, because it's good over evil. It's your voice saying, stop it, leave me alone. And 90% of the time they'll listen to you, but it's that 10% that won't. And we were invited again by the Dead Files to do Travel Trails Dead Files in Pittsburgh in Point Breeze, where a lady had asked Amy and Steve to come into her home because her granddaughters and her had seen spirits in her home, and that the spirits tried to push her granddaughter down their staircase of stairs. And so they were terrified, and they would see a man walking all through their house and doing all kinds of stuff, moving furniture, moving, tableware, the smell of sulfur, the smell of men's cologne. And so they were very scared. The whole family was disruptive. And then also her husband was starting to act angry and kind of violent. And so she thought he was possessed. So Amy Allen and Steve had come up and asked us to come in as paranormal investigators and also to help them cleanse the house, because as they were filming it, all this activity. So we actually cleansed it during the filming. And then afterwards we came back to teach this lady, Lisa, how to cleanse her house. And it turned out that the ground that they build these new houses in Pittsburgh was a place that 70 people had died from an explosion. And so they were creeping in through her basement. When I went to the basement, I was terrorized. I seen a man down there. He touched me and he pushed me. I ran upstairs. I'm afraid of negative spirits, and so did my sister. So that place was really, really full of, the one person was a conductor for the train tracks that had ran through there, part of the building that had burned. One was a disfigured man the little girl would see all burned up, and he'd be making noises and touching. And then another person, had would drag its foot and be screaming. They were extremely tortured and tormented by the spirits. And so we went, and it's out there. I took a few pictures myself. It's out there on my YouTube. And we went and showed Lisa room to room, and she would say in the closet, they would stare at her. They would move their granddaughter's bed. And so I gave them, holy water. I gave them sage. I gave them some blessed rosaries. I gave them some of the things that I would use, some crystals that would try to help them, because you're not going to get rid of those negative spirits in like one quick afternoon.
One sweep. No. Like in the movie Poltergeist, similar,
Yeah, Poltergeist. Yeah.
Along that lines, yeah.
It was called The Instigator. The Instigator out of the name of that's episode was The Instigator. It was pretty scary.
Now, was this
There's a general rule, use sage to
Yeah.
cleanse my house all the time.
Well, yeah, I've heard that that's something that when you move into your home that you want to cleanse it out like that. But I didn't realize it was. I'd never thought about it being the sage. This is an area, a suburban Pittsburgh or somewhere where they built several homes on top of like sort of like like when somebody builds on an ancient Indian burial ground. Because you know
It's
you're
in the city. It's in the city of Pittsburgh. It's in the city of Pittsburgh. It's like a very antique old section of Pittsburgh called Point Breeze. It's a very, there's East Liberty, Point Breeze, and just a nice section down in there of old homes, and some warehouses. And warehouses blew up and it killed like 70 people. This is probably in like the 1890s or so. And so this was all vacant for the longest time. And they decided to build all these homes near the railroad tracks and all this stuff, like probably 40 homes. And her home was the one that had the most activity, that her family would see them coming up through the basement, walking up through the basement stairs and coming into her house. And, you know, the man whose face was all burnt and scarred. And then they would have, you know, a man like making like his leg was dragging. And the little girls were little. They were like 8 and 10. Her grandchildren lived with her. And they would see this stuff. They would smell, you know, like, again, cigarette smoke. Again, that they would, you know, smell like sulfur. Things were moved around, like they would witness things being moved on the cabinets and stuff, and then being touched. And then the most serious part was they were actually thrown down the staircase several times, down this big staircase, and they wound up at the bottom. And no one was there when they turned around, but they could hear somebody giggling and laughing. Then her husband started acting very strangely. He started getting very lack of it, like very violent, very irritated, saying, you know, that something in the house was causing him to do some of these negative things. And so Amy Allen and Steve Chevali came out and tried to figure out what they could do for it. And they revisited it. We would go in and try to, you know, be paratherapists, find out more details to try to help them to get rid of the negative spirits.
It's just amazing. It's sad that these souls are trapped. And I think it's, you know, it's wonderful that with people with your gift and your sister, you know, do whatever they can to help these entities, souls, you know, spirits, if you will, you know, go to the light, to heaven. Whoops, what I believe.
Oh, yeah.
It's a big job, you know.
Now, I didn't go through the whole place. After I was downstairs and chased out of the basement, I was scared. So I
was like, later.
Go downstairs. And I stayed upstairs and she went down and did all that, because that was a very terrifying experience. When you have really that negative energy, then you can feel the thickness and the hate, and they want to harm you.
You know, I never even thought about the fact that you being so close to it, you know, for somebody like me or Linda or Dennis, whatever, to be scared, or, you know, and really, but, you know, you're right up there on the front lines per se. You know, dang, you got a lot of guts, girl.
And, you know, it can happen anywhere. Linda and I and a few friends went over to Woodside's Grill over here.
You just read my mind. I was thinking about that.
Yeah. And we just go over to have dinner with some friends. And it's an old mansion that was converted into a restaurant.
Right. And they brought all the stuff that was in there from Europe, from some old castle in Europe to build this. And it was a grand place with a fireplace that was so large you could stand in it. I mean, it was really incredibly beautiful.
So we're downstairs and they're starting to eat their dinner. We walk past it, and all of a sudden this antique ceramic stuff and this tea set went flying up.
Came right by my face.
Came right by her face. It came flying off. And it's like, everyone's seen it.
Everybody was trying to make a photo of like the group in front of this antique.
Yes.
It wasn't an armoire, but it was like a buffet type thing with glass shelves, and it was really big and ornate, but it was all open. It didn't have any doors that closed it. And we're standing there, and all of a sudden one just comes right off the shelf.
Right off the shelf. And then
flies by my face and lands at my feet.
And then all of a sudden you see all this blue smoke everywhere. Remember the blue smoke?
Yes.
And people are taking pictures of the blue smoke. And then you could see like it's shaking a little bit in it. And actually, I have a photo at that same location, and there's an orb, and Kathy St. George is in it. Remember the big blue orb?
Yes, there is a big blue orb with a face and the orb.
Yeah, with Kathy
No
St. George.
kidding.
This is about
This is about 10 or 12
10,
years
10
ago.
or 12 years ago. Yeah,
Yes, Kathy was in town then. for
Yeah,
that.
she was in
I'd
town.
forgotten about that.
she was in
They
town.
were probably hassling you guys because you're such hot babes.
And then after that, the owner asked us to come in and do like a paranormal investigation with Linda, and we did like a ghost hunt to try to find out what was going on inside the Woodside's
Right.
Grill / Stone Mansion. And Kathy was part of that ghost hunt.
She
Yeah,
was.
it was. And
That's
it
wild.
was a very haunted place. It was owned by a sheriff, and people. One person had actually died in there. Remember,
Yes.
one person had died, and he was haunting it. And if you looked into the giant mirror, you could see the picture of a man in a top hat that scared the chef, scared us. I mean, when you see these apparitions and these strong spirits.
And there's a video, actually, I think it's on my Facebook page and your Facebook page. They had live entertainment at this place a lot. And there's a footage made one night. We just shot like video of the dance floor, and there's a ghost dancing around
Yes, you could
through
see the
everybody. You can
ghost
see the
dancing,
shape of
yeah.
him, everything.
Yes, it's out there on YouTube. I think it's the Ghost of Woodside's Grill. It used to be called
Yeah.
Stone Mansion, and then they changed the name to Woodside's Grill as a restaurant, but it's always been known as Stone Mansion.
And guess what it is now, Bob?
Oh yeah.
What?
A
strip
funeral
club?
home.
A what? A
Oh,
funeral home?
It's a funeral home now. That beautiful big place.
Yeah. It's
Aw.
It's
Can I-
only like 5 minutes from where we're at right
it's
now
like
at my
5
house.
minutes. 5 minutes. Yeah.
I love you guys. Before I forget, because we're not wrapping it up yet, but again, I'm going to invite you back. So because
Oh yeah, and
I
definitely.
love touching on this. We can do a regular thing, and
You got
I-
2 minutes.
Huh?
2 minutes.
my
Definitely
associate-
have people check out my website.
Please, that's what I was going to say. Tell us.
PsychicSuzanneVincent.com or PsychicVincentSisters.com. And everything we talk about is on our YouTube, which would be Psychic Vincent Sisters or Psychic Suzanne Vincent on YouTube. It'll be like our A&E or Travel Channel or Dateline, and a lot of investigations for like paranormal investigations are out there. And then also some updates on some of the murders that we have helped solved, or some murders that we have tried to put some new interest in or some new leads in. So we have some stuff on there that people might be interested.
It's
Tell
too
us
bad
those-
you don't have a podcast next week. Larry Thomas is going to be here.
Oh, fabulous! Hi, Larry.
He's going to be here next week. Like
He's
here
gonna be here next
physically at my house.
Oh, fabulous! And you guys are doing a show?
We're working on a project that we'll be announcing later, but we're working on a big project that's coming up.
Well, would you think you guys would want to do, if we could do a show next week? I can speak to Sam and see if we can. If you guys might free yourselves up on Thursday, you look into it, and I'll speak to Sam.
Okay.
And maybe we can put it together.
Yeah,
Now-
Dave Buglioni's going to be here as well.
Oh, sweet!
Yes.
You guys are all celebrity studded and such. I'm very proud to have
Oh,
you on the
yeah.
Bob Dean Show. Now, I want to do this before I forget, because since we are going to come back again, what do you think about your animals coming back to haunt, because let me put a little background into this. Because Dennis right here, say hi, Dennis.
Hi, Dennis.
There's Dennis over there.
Hi, Dennis.
Hi, Dennis.
Hi.
Dennis is especially like a cat whisperer, and as I've mentioned before, we foster. So there's been, I'm sorry, my little stand here, but we've had many different guys. Anyway, Phoenix was our special guy. We mentioned he passed away. What? How long ago? 6 months.
Yeah.
About 6 months ago, and it was just an unfortunate, older cat thing. But he was a sweetheart, and he was so friendly, and the kids in the neighborhood loved him, and all that sort of thing. Well, and Dennis had mentioned this so off the cuff, casually. He's like, Phoenix, because after Phoenix passed, the other 3 cats would not come. They all used to come and hop up on the bed, blah blah blah. Well, they would literally sit at the threshold to the bedroom door and just sit there and be like looking around, but they wouldn't come in. And I'm like, what the hell? Come on. Well, Phoenix would always come through there. He was black. He was a tuxedo, white and black.
Oh,
And
tuxedos are cute.
he would trot through, and he would go under the bed thinking that we couldn't see him. And then he'd come out the other side of the bed and hop up onto the bed. All right. Well, Dennis off the cuff is just saying, well, here comes Lily now. Lily, come over here. Come this way. Anyway, because she's the one that wouldn't go in there. Oh, there she is.
Mm-hmm.
Wouldn't go in either. Well, Dennis said all the time he sees him in there. And I was like, okay. Well, the other night I saw him. And then last night, same thing. Watching a movie, you know, the TV's on, the lights are dark. And this black cat, I mean, not the full, but it looked like a cutout. But he just as normal as can be, trotted through. And I'm like, and I look and I go, I just saw him. And then I said, I just saw Phoenix. And he goes, he's like, I told you. And it wasn't maybe an hour later, just like the cat used to do, he exited from under the bed. And then I saw him again last night doing the same thing coming in. So what are your feelings on that? Have you ever experienced that? Because I know we're not full of, you know what?
Right. We actually, it's funny because Jean and I and Suzanne were out on my deck in the summertime, and I had a golden retriever named Kalua, who was like my baby. And we were coming in from the deck, and he pushed his way between me and Jean to get in the house ahead of us. And she looked at me and I looked at her, and she's like, did you see that? I'm like, yeah, it was Kalua. It was crazy.
It was a spirit. It was spirit dog. He was
Yeah.
a spirit, and he showed himself on the patio and let him know that he's still here, watching her, around her, protecting her.
Mhm.
And
That's
so, you know,
But he physically pushed us out of the way. He went right between me and Jean. My dining room door is big. It's like 12 feet. And we were coming in that big sliding door, and he just pushed us right out of the way to get between us.
yes.
Well, but it's a good thing though. They're there with you. They're happy and
Yes.
but they're just here because they miss us and love us. But they're
Yep.
not like, see, you were right, dude.
I'm always right.
Kalua was so big. He was a golden retriever, but he weighed like 150 pounds. He looked like a Saint Bernard wearing a golden retriever suit. I mean, he was big.
Yeah.
Well-
And he would come running up the deck to me, but he would always stop before he got to me and gently put his paws up on my shoulder. He would
Yeah.
stand straight up and look me eye to eye. He was just
Aw.
so gentle, just a gentle giant. And for him to show up like that was just a really great, incredible experience to know that he's still around.
Yeah. Because like I said, Dennis has been not dealing with it, but enjoying it, surprised by it, whatever. But when I was like, I thought it was great.
Comforting. It's very comforting.
Very
Comforting. Thank you
Very
very much.
comforting. You know, my sister and I had a cat when we were younger, and it lived to be like 24 years old. And when we used to go over to my mom's house, when the cat had already crossed away, every once in a while we'd see the cat going up the stairs, you know, and it made you feel so comfortable. He was still around the house, all because he loved going up the stairs up into the bedroom, and we would see him all the time. His name was Jonathan, and then, you know, so yeah. And then also I've had cats. I've heard them meowing in my house. I don't have cats now, but I've had cats my whole life, and I love cats. And I do a lot of charity work and raise money for the animals. And I've heard them through the veil meowing.
See, and that's another thing I meant to discuss with you because Phoenix is meowing too. I know I hear him because I'm a night owl. You know, we live in a garden
you'll hear them
apartment, and
meowing.
it's very quiet. And you know, and I'm up till dawn a lot of the time. So it's Sam's telling us to wrap it up. So on this note, but yeah, I know I've heard him like from out. It seems like he's at the door like he used to do because we always do.
Yes.
All right, well, guys, it's time to wrap it up. Thank you, Sam. Thank you all for coming to the Bob Dean Show again, Suzanne and Linda. Love you both. And
Thank you for
Love
inviting
you.
us. Thank
of
you.
course. And my best to your sister and Kathy St. George. When we love you. Dennis,
Kathy.
thank you.
My
Get
sister
well
Jeannie,
soon,
my
Kathy. We
sister
miss
Jeannie
you.
too, and Kathy.
And you guys both look like $1,000,000. I just want to have to
Aw,
put on a
thank
tip
you.
on that stuff. So you look into this, we'll see what we can work out possibly. And if not, we'll do it, another time. But love you
Okay.
guys. Thank you for coming on the Bob Dean Show. And my best. And thank you, audience, for watching and supporting us. And have a nice day.
And Happy New Year to everybody.
Happy New Year. Sparkly New Year. Lots of
Thank you.
happiness.
Thanks a lot, guys. God bless.
You're listening to The Bob Dean Show, only on LA Talk Radio.